Office politics can tempt leaders into self-protection, image management, and quiet compromise, but principled leadership calls us to something higher, calls us to stewardship of the mission, stewardship of people, and stewardship of the soul. Ready to grow with resilience, clarity, and confidence in leadership, career, and faith? Welcome to The Next Move. I'm Orvin Kimbrough, CEO, author, and founder of The Thriver's Path. I went from foster care to the CEO seat, and here's what I learned. Transformation doesn't start with a title. It starts with your next move. How you reframe your thinking, reclaim your agency, and rename what's possible. If you're done circling and ready to step forward, you're in the right place. Let's make your next move your best move. Welcome back to The Next Move, the podcast where we explore faith, leadership, and personal growth to help you take your next step with purpose and confidence. Folks, I'm your host, Orvin Kimbrough. Today, I want to talk about something that is real in almost every room, but barely, and rarely named with honesty: office politics. Not the kind people joke about in the hallway. I'm talking about the subtle kind, the quiet kind, the kind that makes you wonder whether the room is really about the mission or whether it is about positioning, protecting, and performing. And this matters now because we are leading in a time where people are tired, organizations are changing, trust is fragile, ambition is high, fear is often unspoken, and when pressure rises, guess what? Politics usually rises with it. So today is not an invitation to become cynical. It's not that. It's an invitation to become discerning. Because there is a difference. There is a difference between being wise and being guarded. There is a difference between being strategic and being manipulative. There is a difference between understanding the room and losing yourself in the room. And for every leader listening, especially those who are rising, those who come from non-traditional backgrounds, those who feel like they had to work twice as hard to be seen as half as ready. I want to say this plainly. You don't have to lose your soul to survive the room. You don't have to become political to become powerful. You don't have to shrink your integrity to expand your influence. I know what it feels like. Folks, I know what it feels like to enter spaces where the rules were not written for you. I know what it feels like to walk into rooms where people already had relationships, they had history, assumptions, and quiet agreements that you were not a part of. I know what it feels like to feel the pressure to prove you belong. And I know what it feels like to sense that if you are too direct, you may be labeled difficult. If you are too quiet, you may be overlooked. If you are too confident, you may be seen as arrogant. If you are too humble, you may be you may be underestimated. This is a hard place to lead from, and it can wear on you. It can make you second guess your voice. It can make you manage your image more than your assignment. I hope you caught that. And it can make you confuse acceptance with alignment. And if you're not careful, office politics will not just change how you lead, it will change how you see yourself. That is why James 3:17 is so important. James says the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure. I hope you caught that. It's first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. That is not weak wisdom. That's not a passive wisdom. That's not naive wisdom. That is clean wisdom. It is wisdom that does not need deception to be effective. It's wisdom that can sit in complicated rooms without becoming complicated in spirit. It is wisdom that knows how to be peace-loving without being silent, considerate without being cowardly, merciful without being manipulated, impartial without being indifferent, and sincere without being soft. Did you catch that? The wisdom from above does not remove us from difficult rooms. It teaches us how to remain whole inside them. That is, folks, that's the real work. because leadership is not just about what you accomplish. It is about what happens to you while you are accomplishing it. It is about whether your ambition costs you your authenticity. It's about whether your advancement costs you your peace. It's about whether your influence costs you your integrity. Early in my leadership journey, and certainly when I stepped into banking, I had to learn this in real time. Folks, I came from foster care. I came through social work. I came through community and economic development. I came through spaces where the work was close to pain, close to people, close to need. Then I entered banking, and I had to learn a different language, a different pace, a different set of expectations, and I could feel the pressure. Not always loud. Sometimes it was quiet. The pressure to fit, the pressure to prove, the pressure to position, the pressure to be accepted by people who may not have fully understood the road I had traveled. And there were moments. There were moments when I felt the temptation to play small political games, to posture, to protect my image, to say less than I believed, to avoid tension that needed to be named, to win favor instead of stewarding purpose. But every time I leaned too far in that direction, something in my spirit, resisted. Something said, this is not who you are. And I had to learn that politics pulls leaders into self-preservation, but stewardship pulls leaders into mission preservation. Politics asks, how do I protect myself? Stewardship asks, how do I protect what has been entrusted to me? That's a different question. And when you ask a different question, you become a different kind of leader. So how do we navigate office politics without losing our souls? The first thing is this: discernment is your shield, not suspicion, discernment. There is a difference. Suspicion assumes the worst. Discernment pays attention. Suspicion closes your heart. Discernment opens your eyes. Suspicion makes you reactive. Discernment makes you wise. Not everything that feels political is malicious. Sometimes people are afraid. Sometimes people are insecure. Sometimes people are protecting what they built. Sometimes people are operating from wounds they have never named. Sometimes people are not against you. They are simply for themselves. And that distinction matters, because if you misread every action as an attack, you will live exhausted. You will lead defensively. You will start fighting battles that don't deserve your energy. Discernment helps you know when to speak, when to wait, when to clarify, when to challenge, and when to simply keep moving. It helps you understand that every meeting does not require your reaction. Every comment does not require your defense. Every slight does not deserve your soul. Some things need to be addressed for sure. Some things need to be documented. Some things need to be escalated. Some things need to be released. Discernment helps you know the difference. The second thing is this: mission alignment always beats political alignment. Political alignment is about who is with me. Mission alignment is about what are we here to do? And when leaders lose sight of mission, personality fills the gap. Ego fills the gap. Fear fills the gap. History fills the gap. The loudest voices fill the gap. But when mission is clear, it gives the room something higher to answer to. That does not mean everyone will agree with you. They may not. They may not understand your background. They may not appreciate your style. They may not move at your pace, but clarity has a way of creating respect. When people know you are not simply trying to win, but trying to serve the mission, they may not always like your decisions, but they will understand your center. Ooh, I hope you caught that. And leaders need a center. Because if you don't have a center, the room will assign you one. We talked about that in the last episode. If you do not know who you are, the politics of the room will tell you who to become. If you don't know why you are there, you will start chasing whatever gets rewarded. That is why mission matters. Mission keeps you from making every disagreement personal. Mission keeps you from confusing loyalty to people with loyalty to purpose. Mission keeps you grounded when the room gets loud. The third thing is this, don't miss this: integrity is your anchor. Politics pulls sideways. Integrity pulls upward. Politics says do what works. Integrity says do what is right. Politics says protect the image. Integrity says protect the truth. Politics says say what they want to hear. Integrity says say what love and responsibility require. And here's what I've learned, folks. Here's what I've learned. The moment you trade your values for influence, you begin losing both. The moment you trade your values for influence, you begin losing both. Because influence without integrity is not leadership, it's performance. And performance may get applause for a season, but it cannot carry the weight of purpose. Integrity simplifies leadership. It does not make leadership easy, but it makes it clear. You don't have to remember which version of yourself you brought into which room. You don't have to manage 3 stories. You don't have to compromise quietly and then wonder why your spirit feels heavy. Integrity lets you sleep. Integrity lets you stand. Integrity lets you lead without constantly looking over your shoulder. And I want to be clear. Integrity does not mean you tell everybody everything. It does not mean you speak without wisdom. It does not mean you ignore timing, context, or relationships. Integrity means your private motives and public actions are not enemies. It means the person people experience in the room is connected to the person God is forming in private. That, folks, is the anchor. That is the anchor. That is the anchor. The fourth thing is this: stewardship forces you to rise above personal agendas. Stewardship forces you to rise above personal agendas. There have been moments in my own journey where I've been baited into battles that didn't matter. There have been moments where I could feel the room trying to pull me into drama. There have been moments where fear dressed itself up as strategy, and there have been moments where insecurity tried to sound like wisdom. That happens in organizations. It happens in boardrooms. It happens in executive teams. It happens in nonprofits and banks and churches and civic spaces and community work. Wherever people gather, motives gather too. But stewardship asks a higher question. What has been entrusted to me? Who is counting on me to stay steady? What mission needs protection? What people need covering? What future needs me to not get distracted by temporary noise? That is a different way to lead, because politics is often about control. Stewardship is about care. Politics is often about proximity to power. Stewardship is about responsibility for purpose. Politics asks, how do I come out on top? Stewardship asks, how do we move forward with integrity? And that shift matters, especially for leaders of faith and leaders with faith, because faith does not call us to be naive. Faith calls us to be anchored. Jesus understands and understood politics. He understood power. He understood betrayal. He understood crowds. He understood people who praised publicly and plotted privately, but he never let the politics around him define the purpose within him. That is the model, not avoidance, not cynicism, not manipulation. So here is the reframe. You are not just navigating office politics. You are navigating purpose in a political environment. That means the goal is not to become better at playing games. The goal is to become clearer about your assignment, clearer about your voice, clearer about your values, clearer about what deserves your energy and what does not. Here's the reclaim. You don't need to play the game to change the game. You don't need to play the game to change the game. You can be wise without being fake. You can be strategic without being self-serving. You can build relationships without compromising your convictions. You can understand power without worshiping it. You can sit in hard rooms and still keep your soul intact. So, and here's the rename. You are not political. You are principled. And principled does not mean rigid. Principled does not mean difficult. Principled does not mean unwilling to collaborate. Principled means there is a line. There is a line your ambition will not cross. Principled means your leadership is accountable to something higher than approval. Principled means you do not need to become less whole in order to become more successful. So let me leave you with this reflection. Where are you tempted to play the political game instead of practicing principled stewardship? Where are you managing perception when you should be stewarding purpose? Where are you shrinking your voice to keep peace that was never really peace? And where? And where is God inviting you to lead with wisdom that is pure, peace loving, considerate, full of mercy, impartial, and sincere? This week, don't just examine the politics around you, examine what the politics is awakening in you. Is it fear? Is it ambition? Is it insecurity? Is it resentment or discernment, courage, clarity, conviction? Because the room may be political, but your spirit doesn't have to be. The environment may be complicated, but your values can remain clear. The game may be loud, but your purpose can remain louder. And my encouragement to you is this: stay wise, stay grounded, stay whole, lead with discernment, lead with integrity, lead with stewardship, and don't lose your soul trying to win a room that was never meant to define you. Until next time, keep taking your career, keep taking your next move. Thanks for spending time with me on The Next Move. I hope today's reflection helped you see your situation differently and reminded you that you're not stuck, you're being strengthened. If this episode resonated, share it with someone who's standing at the edge of their next move. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's ahead. For deeper reflections, tools, and guided pathways for growth, visit orvinkimbrough.com and explore the Thriver's Path. Until next time, remember, every small step taken with intention moves you closer to the life and leadership you're becoming. Let's keep moving forward together.